Thank you. Do you want to sing the anthem or anything?
No.
Oh, okay.
My kids say I sing terrible, so no, that's why I'm not listening.
Do you want to, Jenny? Okay.
Hello, this young lady is Jessica Dollinger with the video game director. She may be doing this in the future, so.
Do you want to go ahead and announce that?
We will be having this meeting video for the public. It will be streaming somewhere at some point, and everybody should be aware of that. Do we have anyone looking to make a public comment before we start this meeting? Seeing none, we'll move on. Right there. We need first to approve an agreement for consultant services with Leadership Associates. And I'm looking to have someone make a motion.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this item? No? Well, I'd like to say it was an exciting process, and I'm really proud of my board for all the investigation they did and all the research they did to take this very seriously. And while we felt happy with Leadership Associates in the past, we are even more excited to work with you this year. So thank you for coming back and offering to help us and realizing that we are very fussy, so you added Mike to your group. Thank you. All those in favor of this motion?
Aye.
All those opposed? 5-0?
4-0.
4-0. And for your information, our fifth board meeting member, Jenny Meyer, is away for 3 weeks. And somehow the superintendent didn't tell her before he decided he would be retired. We did not
Give her a warning.
But she has already spoken with Rich and left her messages for today's meeting. And so it's quite comforting to know that she's really here and in Dubai at the same time.
She's actually in the air right now, I believe. She's been dipping the Aegean, she told me at 10 o'clock last night.
Isn't it wonderful?
It was 9:30 there.
Awesome. So, moving on, we wanted to turn the meeting over to you, Richard.
Great, well, thank you very much. We really look forward to working with you on this superintendent search, and congratulations on the diligence that you did pay to making sure that the firm that you chose was one that was a match to go out and recruit and do reference checking and screen candidates for your next superintendency. I'd like to introduce my two partners. This is Dr. Peggy Lynch. Dr. Lynch is the managing partner of Leadership Associates and was superintendent in San Diego Union High School District and Brea Olinda Unified. And Dr. Mike Caston, who was most recently superintendent of Escondido Union School District, before that in Palos Verdes, Charter Oak, and Santa Barbara School Districts. So they both bring a number of years of knowledge of the superintendency, knowledge of who's out there, the candidates on a statewide level. And as I mentioned in our presentation, we have 10 partners. All of us work together on these searches. We communicate nightly via email. So our ability to screen, to recruit is really strong statewide and reaches out to national contacts. So we're really, we'll bring you some good candidates, and it's a great school district with great promise as you've evolved in different ways here. So we'll find some candidates that will, probably many of them, that will match what you need. What we'd like to do today is several things. One, find out from the board basically the characteristics you would like to see in the next superintendent. Qualities, both professional and personal, type of person you'd like to see lead Fullerton moving forward. We'd like to find out also what community and staff input groups or groups you'd like to give us input, so that, as I mentioned in our presentation, we'd end up with a whole lot of data to give back to you as you deliberate and consider candidates for your superintendency. So those groups are pretty critical. Two things happen with that. Number one, you kind of validate them by saying you're important to us in our work here as a governing body, one. And two, you do get some great input that you may not have gotten through other channels and surveys. We'd also like to establish a timeline today, so we really have, real parameters in that regard, so we know what to tell potential recruits. And finally, talk about how we communicate with you on an ongoing basis so that you know what we're up to, with whom we communicate, how that's reported out to the board. So given that, we're going to take notes, first of all, on the qualities and characteristics you'd like to see, and any other issues that you think we really need to know. We had great conversation last week about our potential to do the search, and it was great input. I'm going to kind of continue that and see, what are we looking for moving forward? And it always kind of as an initial comment, it isn't a negative comment on the current superintendent, but literally moving forward, because the district is always evolving. There are new issues in the community, things that weren't here 5 years ago when Mitch Hovey took the job that we need to know about as we go out and recruit, and we answer questions for candidates about what this is all about. So given that, I don't know how you'd like to start. Hilda, would you like to just kind of have, and we'll be writing down all these comments as they're made with regard to the qualities and characteristics.
I know that everybody thought about this over the last few days and brought along some list of some sort. Could you please first present us with the qualities and characteristics that Jenny shared with you?
Yes, we have them right here.
I think that's very important for us to start from, to give her credit for what she has done.
Yes.
And does anyone have questions before we go on? Thank you.
Okay, good,
This is
thanks.
what page there? It's the two sites.
This is all, anybody needs.
Anyone wants that?
There's one more.
We have that here.
Okay, good,
Is there enough for these digitals?
Yeah, they got it.
yeah,
Thank
we're perfect now.
I knew that.
So would you like for me to read these out loud, or how
Do
would
you
you?
guys want to?
I'm almost done.
Okay.
Oh. And if anyone wants to make a comment on any of these, just speak out. I heard a comment from Lynn.
Date.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. And you'll notice two-sided, of course, and then on the back, there's also some recommendations for school and community members to get feedback.
Let's hold on that.
Okay.
So that we can focus on one thing at a time.
Okay.
Because Chris is getting older and he likes to focus on one thing at a time, right?
Multitasking, communicating.
Okay, so who'd like to go first? Beth, you want to jump right in here? So Beth is always organized.
I'm not very organized.
I can,
Go ahead, Chris.
Jannies are mostly, well-written and obvious strengths. Leadership skills are obviously critical, people skills are obviously critical. Strong enough to hold people accountable is obviously critical. I'm fairly confident that between the community that we involve and the comments of the entire board, we're going to state a lot of the obvious about a professional, articulate, strong leader, leads by example, all of those common sorts of things that you expect from a top executive. What I have seen over the years in school districts, in this school district, is that superintendent's a very powerful individual related to the policy and decision-making of a school district, because they're the top expert that the board looks to. It matters to me very much, and this is kind of more an instruction or a request from you. I really want to understand the personal educational values of our candidates. I'm going to have a very difficult time making a decision about somebody simply because I am convinced that they're professional. I want to know what, and I specifically want to know a couple of things. What budget types of challenges have they faced? How did they deal with those challenges? How did they lead their district to handling those challenges? With a specific emphasis on the juxtaposition between association bargaining and its impact on the budget. And it's not enough for me to know that I have a superintendent that is capable of taking instruction from the board and executing it. I will only support a superintendent whom, to at least a significant degree, shares my values about that we are at a stage in education in California that we have a huge oversupply of highly qualified teachers on the street. And I am personally very close to done placing budget burdens on children, which is to say added furlough days, which shortens the school year, affected school year, increasing class size by doing layoffs. I'm done with that. And I'm done spending, and I've always been done, until the economy legitimately improves significantly and the state is not operating in a deficit, I don't want to spend reserves. So it's going to be important to me, and I think it's important for this community and the kids of Fullerton School District that we have a superintendent that shares those values. Hopefully they're better at articulating those values than I am, at articulating those in a palatable way, but because I believe that it's very difficult for a board to effectively oppose the core values of a superintendent. It's possible, but why do that? So those are my values that I want substantively to see in a super, and for me, I would consider a super that was honest with us and said, you know, I'm not going to be the big community charity guy. You know, I'll go to a few key ones, but it's just not my bailiwick. For me, that's not a big issue. You know, I think the money that we raise is a tiny fraction of the money that we waste. And but I have no problem with him. I think that stuff has value with, you know, positive spirit in the community and so forth, but it's not a critical one for me. So that the active leadership role in outside organizations is not critical for me, that Janny stated. And then, you know, collaboration. I'm not, you know, when someone uses the word collaborate, it doesn't impress me. You know, I think collaboration is necessary to vest people, but what I'm not convinced of is that collaboration always leads to the best answer. Sometimes a leader has a vision for the best answer, and collaboration, especially, collaboration depends on how heavily you weight the people that you bring to the party. You know, and it seems that we usually bring 50% of all of our collaborative groups as you know, union members, association members that are directly vested in their personal income, and 50% of any group is usually that. Well, you know, there's 154,000 people in Fullerton and 13,000 kids. I think that's a disproportionate number. So collaboration for me is it's important, but it's not. And I'm not personally going to be impressed with using the buzzword 21st century learning over and over and over again. So I'm telling you this because I know you want to bring it to us, a candidate that ideally gets the full support of the board, and I think there is a candidate out there that we could all agree on, but those are my priorities.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
In reviewing Jani's, I know she's got some good things here. I think I would like to add that collaboration in conjunction with relationships, I think, is truly important. I think that what we've done over the past 5 years is built collaborations with other organizations in Fullerton, such as Cal State Fullerton, Hope University. We have partnered with those schools and build relationships so that they will then in turn help our students. So they come onto our campuses, they volunteer their time. So I truly think collaboration in that sense is very, very important. And someone that can continue those relationships with the community, I think is key, because we've made a lot of progress in the things that we've been able to offer our children or our students through those collaborations. Grants that we get, I think that those have been ideal, again, because of the relationships that our superintendent has with the community. They see the value in investing in our education process here. So I think that's one of the key things that I would be looking for. I think someone that's creative, that, as Chris said, when you're looking at a budget, there's other ways to come up with solutions and not hit children. So I would look at someone that may have had some creative ideas in the past to tackle their budget situation. So someone that kind of thinks outside the box, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that, and bring in some other ideas would be ideal at a time like this. Forward thinking. I think that I do truly believe in 21st century skills. I think that our students need to be pushed to the next level because they're competing on a global aspect, and they're competing with other states and other countries, and we really need to keep them forward. So forward thinking, maybe going along with the 21st century skills. I'm not talking just technology, because it's more than just technology. It truly is a different way of learning. Different ideas in the classroom, being more creative, bringing in, especially at our middle schools, really taking a look at our middle schools and maybe coming up with solutions and helping engage those students at those levels, I think would be something I would really, truly be excited about. So I think I'm just adding those for now, and as we go along, I'm sure I can do something else to add on. I mean, again, I'm not going to reiterate Jani's. I think she's got some good things here, but I think those are some of the things that I think are very important to me.
Thank you.
Bev, I love what you said, and Chris, I hear what you're saying in regards to how they've solved budget issues. I feel like that's all we've done for the last 5 years or plus, and we've survived this far, and I know we will survive into the future. It's the process that goes on within schools right now, and has gone. The 90s were about the same crisis that we're facing right now. So therefore, somebody that has some experience might be important. And so I think we need to kind of consider a couple things. Should they have a doctorate? And should they already be a sitting superintendent? At some point, you have to get your start as a superintendent. Are we willing to be that district? I think those are the things that need to be considered. Or is it important to us to have someone that's already sitting in a role? And what kind of experience would we look for in that? I know we're a K-8 district. We're not necessarily going to attract somebody that has high school experience and wants to be in a bigger district, right? I mean,
We're Fullerton.
we're Fullerton, but
Is that true? I don't know if that's true. I didn't mean to interrupt. It's
No,
an
no,
interesting
I mean,
question. I would think that they would think more in terms of the ADA numbers than.
sure they are. But if they're already at 25,000 students,
Oh,
then
yeah. Hard to
So
compare there. Yeah.
already our pool is defined a little bit by those that want a middle-sized school district that's a K-8. You think about how people that have moved through our area, Michael Escalante comes to mind. I mean, he was moving his way up. Greg Franklin, principal at Fullerton High, moves into a larger district. The chances of someone like that coming back towards us, So you do have to consider, we are only, I'm going to say it that way, only a K-8. And there are people that, want a unified district, they want a high school district, they want a K-12 district, you know, so I think that the strength of the person also is gonna be the experience that they're gonna bring, what they have already done, or do we wanna be the stepping stone for somebody? Along with what everybody else has said, I mean, I do believe we're faced with the challenge of providing kids with an education that's going to get them into the 21st century. So someone that embraces not just the arts and technology is, are you really a math science kind of person? Are you ready to push forward with a great relationship? There's that collaboration with the Beckman Foundation that's providing that, and can you talk that talk with a decisive tone so that it's embraced by teachers? Because I do think those are not necessarily some of the skills the teachers bring to the classroom, and that's sometimes why there's a struggle. Not all teachers are comfortable teaching science, you know, at a high level, but it is obviously where the future of our nation rests. So anyway, those are just my thoughts, along with agreeing to some of what's already been said or written.
I was gonna say that, you know, piggybacking on that, like, we do need to decide if in fact we would consider, or I guess you take a look at the candidates as they come in. If they're not sitting superintendents, you look at their experience level.
Right.
But yeah, that is a good point.
That, if I may, that particular criteria of sitting superintendent, they could be a sitting superintendent of a very small
Yes,
district,
Right.
or a deputy of a very
Exactly.
large
Yes,
district.
right,
And
exactly.
so that,
Look at
you know,
which
I think our recommendation is to really have a broad pool.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then you choose, because we're gonna bring you all the candidates, everybody that applied. And then you're gonna say, you'll look at their experience level based on what they've done
Right.
and where they have been. So I think the broadening the pool, then you narrow it after you see them. I mean, that's my recommendation.
Thank you. As I've sat on this board, I've seen our district go like this with different characteristics of our superintendents. We've had very nurturing superintendents. We've had very out-of-the-box thinkers. But one thing that I know is you can't, no matter how good you are on a given snippet of time, you might be great. If you don't keep improving, that great becomes good and then it becomes mediocre. I'm looking for a superintendent to continue up the scale, have enough vision to continue to move our district forward. And I guess to clarify, I would say 8 years ago, PLCs were starting and Fullerton School District tried to embrace them, but it's really taken 8 years to get everybody on board. But it took that leader 8 years ago to say, you've got to buy into professional learning communities. Now the skill to get people to buy in is that collaboration piece. And that piece goes totally with our employees, you know? So we need a superintendent who will be trusted and continue the work of Mitch. Mitch is doing something right now that I think is exemplary, which is the unions working with the school district, the teachers union, to come up with criteria for teacher evaluation, and then move that criteria forward to work as a group to eliminate teachers who don't meet whatever the standards are and protocols that this group is putting in. That's moving forward, and that type of out-of-the-box thinking requires collaboration or respect, and
Well, and trust.
and trust. And so I don't want to slip backwards. I want to keep going. In terms of 21st century learning, I don't care what it's called. We're moving away from laptops. We're moving on to iPads. We're doing different things. We're doing QR codes to learn how to read. We're doing all sorts of stuff. Books are going online. But most important, why we have to continue moving forward, is that the Common Core standards are going to require everybody to take their test on some sort of a device. And our students need to be skilled in whatever that device is. And those devices are going to keep changing, as we've seen through the years. But our site leaders need to be brave enough to embrace the devices and communicate what is needed to their teachers. That leads me to, I think our leader, whoever that is, has to have the strength to know when to cut the strings with anybody who's employed in our district, for whatever the reason. That is hard. I find it hard in my own home. Regardless of the employee who comes in, I want to make them lunch, and cutting the strings is just really hard. So it's a skill I don't have, but I realize our district needs accountability. Our district has lots of programs. I don't think anyone on our board knows every program that we have in place, but there are some that we really need to be we need a superintendent who learns quickly and understands our population. It did take Mitch a little bit of time to understand how important the arts and technology are to this community. And the next person to come in has to understand, as Chris said, there'll be a lot of things we want to cut before student programs, and we don't want to cut the arts. We don't want to cut what we're doing in areas that enhance the education of our students. We want to increase robotics. We don't want to cut back. If it is true that soon it will be a graduation requirement that every student takes one online course in a year, we need to have the vision to have how we can get there. I'm on the California State Educational Technology Task Force, and they're making the plan for what's going to be required for California students. And I don't know what I'm doing on that committee, but all the people who are on the committee keep talking about the importance of online learning. And we need a superintendent who has a vision of how are we going to bring back at-home taught students and do other things. Our gifted program, that's very important to me. Lynn and I were both at some point president of that organization. Janny taught it. Janny, I think, was even more strongly supportive than all of us. It's a group of students that we focus so much on needy students that we forget these are needy students, and that superintendent is going to have to continually address the needs. How are we meeting the needs of our high-end learners when Race to the Top and No Child Left Behind is, again, focusing on our low-end learners. Those are really important things to me. In terms of a superintendent supporting our foundations and other charitable events, I respectfully don't agree with you, Chris, about the need for that leadership. We saw in our last 2 years of budgets that because the percentage we're getting in from the government is going down, the percentage of the donations from these groups is representing a higher percentage of our budget. And enhancing relationships with major foundations through charity is, so that doesn't mean just give some money to all the arts or educational technology. It does mean going out and finding people who will donate, and that has not been something that any of our superintendents that I've experienced have done. But the time for the need, well, I shouldn't say that negatively. I didn't mean it that way. Yes, they fostered. Mitch almost single-handedly brought us the Create grant with Cal State Fullerton, which is $several million. It's our program. But to really make the community understand how much we appreciate that the Assistance League is now tutoring in our schools, that's worth money to us, even though it's not.
Just to quantify,
Yeah.
and I don't disagree. Look, I have no problem with the superintendent who is of benefit to fundraising activities. I'm not against it. It's just, I believe that our fundraising revenues are hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, several. Am I wrong about that?
Well.
Depends on where the youth
Two
count
of our-
grants.
Two of our foundations give about $500,000.
Together.
Yeah, the arts and technology.
I thought it was around a few $100,000, but we spent far more in this last budget in reserves, which had to be spent for a lack of strong negotiations with our associations. We spent far more in reserves than we raised in fundraising.
I agree with you.
And there's a
That's an
downside,
issue.
there is a downside to
Oh,
all
yeah.
this fundraising. You know, there's big white tents and champagne and wine and, you know, and all these, you know, all the big mucky mucks from town come together and no kids. But it builds this sense that the false notion that the biggest problem with public education is underfunding, it builds that. And it puts us in a worse position to have a community with the political will to say, hey, look, the real unemployment rate in California is like 17%. And you know, entrepreneurs' personal incomes are down enormous chunks of their income. And job security has plummeted. And so many of us are struggling with paying for our own health care. And your profession, at least in Fullerton, has had almost no significant reduction in income, no significant reduction in health care, no reduction in contribution of health care. We're about to
We're
be
talking
at
about our employees.
yeah,
Okay.
89, I'm talking about 89% of our budget is what I'm talking
Right.
about.
No,
And so we go out and we
I
have,
respectfully agree with you on what you're
well,
saying.
you know,
but
we do all these fancy things, and we raise $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, which is great. It's great. And it's great what it does for the community, except for the part that we just avert our eyes. We just had a budget advisory committee where the chairman of the budget advisory committee literally said out loud, oh, we didn't talk about teacher salaries and benefits.
Well, let me get back
We just
to my-
decided that would not be a
Let me
good
get
thing
back
to
to
talk
my
about.
list, okay? Okay? I believe that while there may be a slight downside, there are programs we would not have we not fundraised.
That wouldn't be true if we cut the budget more.
And perhaps we will do both, pardon?
All the arts has always been based on fundraising.
Yes.
Well,
And.
there's a school district called Saris School District that's cut, the salary's 8.5%. They have summer school.
Chris, I'm just giving my.
I understand.
I know.
I'm fighting for what I think is
I
important.
know, but we'll get to those points when we get to that issue, okay? I'm just gonna give what I like for a superintendent. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So, out of the box, I don't care if the superintendent has been seated before or not. We've had great superintendents who have not been a superintendent before. We've had a great superintendent who has been a superintendent before. It's the person. And sometimes if you haven't been a superintendent before, people don't allow you to really show all your wherewiths. There are a lot of superintendents retiring right now, and therefore I think there are going to be many people applying for the job who've never been a seated superintendent before. It's exciting and frightening, but both. And while I think in my heart we'll probably ask for a superintendent, there's a greater potential that we would hire a superintendent with a PhD. I am not opposed to meeting someone who's fabulous and doesn't hold a PhD. So I wouldn't want to limit the search by letters after your name or whatever whatever. I like the idea of keeping the search wide open.
Point of PhD or EDD, right?
That's
The
what I
doctorate,
meant.
the doctorate,
Excuse me, a doctor. Yeah. And when we did our last search, we had asked that the person would live locally. And we asked that of all of our people, and they said yes. That wasn't a reality. I don't know if it really makes a difference. I mean, Mitch has done a wonderful job and doesn't live locally. Cameron sold his home and did move locally, and so he saw people at the market and all of that. Probably more stressful for the superintendent. But initially, I believe it's harder to get to know our community when you live far away. And later on, it's hard to keep coming back for different events when you do live a distance away. I'm uncomfortable asking the superintendent or the assistant sup to come in for something that's going to be an hour when they live an hour away. It's going to be 2.5 hours of driving for
I
them.
don't have a problem with that.
You're good. But that's it. And of course, we've seen effective communication is important. It doesn't have to be touchy-feely, it has to be professional. So now you know what Superman looks like in Fullerton School District, or Super Lady,
Superwoman, yeah.
super person. And I think you hear from us a lot of common ground. And I think, as Chris said a minute ago, we want a leader who has the courage to work with this financial piece. And he's not opposed to them also giving to charity, but he wants it to be made clear, I believe, that this is not going to solve all of our problems. This is not a solution. Schools are.
Well, it's that, look, I'll know who or whom I like when I meet them and they give me honest feedback about where they're coming from, and we can see and hear from them what their experience is. It would be an interesting person that was simultaneously highly involved in the kinds of fundraising collaborations that we do here, which are extraordinary. And very strong in stating to our associations, look, we'd love to give you all more, and when we'd love to give the best of you even more than that, and we'd love to get rid of the worst of you, but we can't. We struggle to. So we're really, really going to live by this phrase that we constantly repeat. We put children first here in Fullerton. And because I do not, we've done a lot of good work here, but I do not believe when it comes to the hardest aspects of running a district, which really is how much money goes to, and I'm just going to use the phrase, union members who limit our ability to manage them, versus how much go to programs. Because, we say we haven't cut many programs, but we have. We don't have nurses, we don't have plenty of PE teachers, we don't provide, plenty of instruments for kids that want to be in band, we don't have summer school. Well, we don't provide plenty of them, most people have to go out and rent them. And
We did 2 years ago, we got a huge grant and got it.
oh, okay. Well, but there's a lot of things. We don't have a significant sports program in the junior highs. There's a lot of things we don't. We've added many furlough days. We've shortened the school year. We're about to increase class size significantly. We're spending down reserves, which are going to be very important in a declining economy. So you're right. When you say Superman, you're right. What I will say.
What do you think of merit pay? That's something I want a superintendent who has a vision involving some form of merit pay.
Yeah.
I do believe in that, and several years ago, we put that piece into administrative contracts. Our cabinet, our administrators, our superintendent, and while we haven't been able to implement recently the bonuses, it's a vision of our board at that time, and I hope that the next superintendent will carry the vision.
I'd love, as an anecdote, I walk my dog to Beechwood 4 or 5 nights a week, and
With a plastic bag, I hope.
with 2 of them in my back right pocket.
Good.
And I'm glad to say I usually don't need them too. And there is one teacher who is a teacher of the year for our district, and you guys all know Holly Steele, and in the evenings, on weekdays and weekends, including Saturday nights and Sunday nights, I have seen 3 teachers, probably a total of 15 times on that campus at night after 7 o'clock in the dark. 13 of those 15, or 12 of those 15 is Holly Steele. And that's the kind of person that other teachers should see making 30, 40, 50% more than they do. Is that kind of an award-winning, superstar. And so I couldn't agree, which is going to require a shift from the other end of that spectrum.
Understood.
So that's
So,
what I think is
May I
important.
turn this back over to you guys?
Yeah.
And ladies?
Yeah, well, great, and thanks for I think the profile that you painted is very clear. Obviously around kids and money going to kids and making a leader that will make every effort to make that happen, and have the conversation be about the kids and about the programs that are so important. So I think that's clear, and then all of the other attributes, professional qualities, personal qualities are very clear. So thank you for that. That's, and you will see in the process, as you look at all the candidates and you interview some of them, you will be able to ask those questions. You'll see specifically where they come from with regard to their own belief system around these issues, which then transfers to when they're in the job, under your direction, they'll be able to get done what you want them to do. So
May I
that's
ask you a
easy.
question?
Yeah,
With our thoughts, from the 4 of us,
yeah.
and Jani's written thoughts, now in the public forum, we're recorded, it's streaming, any candidate would probably, definitely want to see what we had to say. Are you concerned that that will affect the answers they give us to the questions we create in the interviews?
I hope so.
Well, I mean, that it will create false answers.
Yeah, but.
Well, they're going to have a demonstrative background you can't say, hey, I fight for this, that, or the other, and then look at the history of the district, which is leadership's job, and not validate, and it's a moot point, because it's going to be available.
No, I understand, I'm just asking a
It's a
question.
good question.
Well, I think what we look for, once we hear what the board wants, is someone with a demonstrated track record of doing the kinds of things you desire, not just someone who can talk about it, but someone that has actually done it and knows how to do it.
Okay. Because that is a concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's no different than any resume you frame it for the needs of the job. So you can, if they know our district, they'll know we have a focus, one of the first to come out with a 21st century laptop technology-based learning. We have a strong arts program. If you get to know your district, this district, you would frame your resume to highlight your skill set that's going to be a benefit to the district.
All the while knowing that when they get the job, if selected by the board, they're going to have to deliver on the things that you asked for.
Right.
To the extent that what you're referring to, Hilda, is the things that I've said, and I think that's a reasonable.
No, I really wasn't referring to you, I was referring actually to her.
Well, okay.
I wasn't thinking of you at that time.
But I think it's a huge advantage that I would recommend that they direct the candidates to the video if it's available, because we don't want somebody that doesn't want this job, and a superintendent should, I think it's helpful for a superintendent to say, I can work with that board, I get that, I get where he's coming from and she's coming from, and I think there's a good middle ground to satisfy that board. I think it's potentially a huge advantage.
I'd rather them just come to a board meeting and see
Why can't they do both?
They will.
They will, not to worry.
We don't live in a bubble.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
just like any profession, they'll be very well connected. They'll have friends who know
Yes,
people within the district. They'll know the rumors, they'll know the ups, they'll know the downs.
that's true.
We're not hidden away in some little faraway country that no one knows anything about us.
Okay, you're on.
Great. So thank you for that, appreciate it. So the next item on our agenda is to talk about what community groups that you'd like us to talk to as we go forth and get input, which comes back to you in a report. So everything they say comes back to you, and you'll know exactly what their purposes are. It's an advisory activity that gives you the input of your selected groups. So, and you probably, having worked with them to the extent that you have, know kind of the groups that you'll designate where they're going to come from with regard to their input. But it's the two things that I mentioned earlier. It's a nice validation that you really realize your responsibility to your community to bring back their input in this very important decision. And then you also do get some comments you may not have picked up from that, because we're sitting one-to-one with them and or receiving an email or however else they want to communicate with us, maybe a phone call which we document, and then you get all that back. So it's kind of a good process for you to gather more data to gather as you do your deliberation around the candidates.
Can I would add too that the candidate who's selected will get all of this as well. So they'll get all, you said what you've said, and also what all the community said, because that frames their work when they start.
Sure, great jumping block from which
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
begin your.
Absolutely.
Right.
Last time you did two parent meetings, one, two junior highs, right? Did they do
Yes.
a couple?
North and south.
North and south,
Yeah.
yeah. Will that be something that you'll be doing as well, or it
Absolutely.
just depends on what?
Yeah.
I thought that
Whatever
was
you
very
guys do,
valuable.
but I think that's important, so you
Right.
have two venues in the.
Fine.
Some people are comfortable with one side of the town,
Right.
the city.
Would you like to make any specific suggestions?
Well, things that come to mind for me is, and I know people are gonna know more, the parents directly involved and the groups we work with, but sometimes that historical perspective adds a lot. So I'm thinking like Duncan Johnson and even Ellen Ballard, former board member, just to get, we used to talk more about the history of Fullerton back when Ron Cooper was still here. That was kind of we had a lot of conversations amongst ourselves and within the district about in the good old days. And we didn't want to lose that. We've moved a long way from that in the good old days concept, but I do think there's a historical perspective that's good. So a former school board members, particularly like Ellen, who just recently sat, and Duncan Johnson, because he's still in the area, not that I wouldn't,
But does
call
he know
it.
it's schools?
huh? And he's still pretty supportive, but I'm just saying, you know, he's had grandkids around kind of thing. Cameron maybe wouldn't be bad either. I don't know that he would come back to do this, but my mind just went to what's a historical book, that just a thought.
Even Jack Vidal, is that his
Yeah.
last name?
Right.
Who is a Orange County school board member, also a grandfather at Beechwood, I think he would add. I didn't say, the Fullerton Collaborative, Pam Keller, I think would be a good person to talk with. I also was thinking that the relationships that we have right now with the different groups in the community, and you guys would probably have a list of that a little bit better.
St. Jude. and
St.
Beckman.
Jude, Hope University, Cal State Fullerton, Fullerton College, all those groups that truly do work alongside us, and they have some input that they would like to give.
I would like to invite a number of taxpayers, small government advocates. I don't know who would be available, but I'd like to invite Sean Nelson, who's Orange County Supervisor, Chris Norby, who's a state assemblyman.
And a parent.
Pardon me?
And a parent.
Both of them are parents.
Yeah, and a parent. Travis Kiger, who's soon to be a parent and one of the leading editorialists in town.
How do you spell last name?
Kiger, Travis Kiger.
Travis.
Greg Seaborn, who is somebody that's very involved in issues and a parent at one of our schools. Jack Dean, who's the president of the Fullerton Association of Concerned Taxpayers. Bruce Whitaker, who is a current city councilman. I'll tell you somebody else I'd like to invite, a former parent who is just an individual that I really respect. is a guy named Scott Stanford. I don't know if he's gonna have time or not. Trying to think, I'm sure I will, come up with others. I can think of a few specific principles that I would personally heavily weight. Kind of to Lynn's point about, historical success, and this person's been complimented to me personally on this board, is I would give a lot of weight as a principal to one of our principals named Harold Sullivan, known as Sully. I'm sure I'll come up with more, but if we could get, I'll be happy to, actually, I'll just give you, I have all those numbers. I'll give you all those numbers. It'd be great if you could call and ask. It would probably be received well to the extent that they have time.
Good, on your behalf, that the board.
Well, on my behalf for sure.
No, I meant on the board's behalf.
Yeah, well, if they
This is
agree.
a morning thing now.
Yeah, I'm not involved in any particular group, that I'm not heavily involved in any particular, group that they've mentioned. So I have more, individual relationships with people that names that I can throw out. And I like, businessmen that will have a sense of what the economy and state budget might look like in the immediate 5 or 10 years, and have some significant experience in planning for, what are likely to be very challenging years coming up.
So what comes to mind are like Tom Meyer and Fullerton Collaborative, Teresa, Fullerton Chamber, Teresa Harvey.
Well, I'll tell you, Gary Graves is a smart guy. Is he the past president, or is he the?
But he doesn't have kids, he doesn't know what's
Well,
going on in our schools.
I don't think it's necessary that you have to have kids, because in addition to being, doesn't mean he
He's a
doesn't,
very involved community.
it doesn't mean he doesn't care about it.
Right, and the question would be, we can ask, and if he doesn't feel the need to participate, it's his.
Yeah, but he's
Right.
a, this is also an institution that serves the community.
Right,
And our success at spending lots of money educating kids is something we're all vested in.
We just had that great Principals for the Day, which brought in a lot of people from the community, business leaders, police, firemen, all kinds of people. I mean, that list would be, a great people to tap into.
Well, yeah, we have a stakeholder list, we have a list of individuals that.
So of the 150,000 that live in Fullerton, we could probably give you the names of about 75,000 of them. So is that enough?
We could be a little busy on that, just the community, but it might take us till July to do that.
Anyone else?
So a couple of logistical
Oh,
things.
wait, I do have things.
Hilda has it.
I'm sorry. I think that in keeping with some of what's been said, Mr. Stopper, who is head of our bond oversight committee, would be an important person.
Or even the whole committee, just, and if a letter goes out.
Yeah. I think that John Phelps, the Phelps Foundation has given a ton of money to the school district. It would be respectful to invite him, or his niece, Maureen,
Glenzie.
Or Louise Phelps.
or Louise
Or
Phelps.
Louise Stamlin.
Okay, that, someone from that,
foundation.
someone
What
from
is
that
Marlene's last
foundation.
name, excuse me?
Maureen-
MCGLENSEY, or is it EY or Y?
Lindsay?
Just Y? Y.
Cheryl Lee,
Apple?
yeah. We have a science advisory board, and Ted Jones is on that, and he'd be a great person in the community. He has a daughter and a son who each teach in our school district, and grandchildren who went through it.
Smart guy.
Ted Lai, who is our former technology director, would probably give you excellent input, LAI. Mike Oates is part of Sister City. He's an outspoken community member who would certainly add a perspective
With grandkids.
with grandchildren. President of our BESMA is Sherry Hoyt, Hoyt. The president of our teachers union currently is named Carla Turner, with a K for Carla. But on the negotiating team is a lady named Stacy Hollenbeck. She teaches at Orangethorpe School. She is an open-minded, advanced thinking teacher that I think would be really important to communicate with. Our former FETA president is Andy Montoya. I don't know if that gives you history. CSEA, the president is Alan Weston, who is a lovely guy, but and his wife Marlene teaches at Nicholas Junior High. She comes to many of our board meetings representing BESMA. And
What was her name?
Marlene, right, Marlene?
Yes, they're just not married.
Oh,
It's Marlene Acosta, she's a clerk at Nicholas Junior.
oh, I didn't know that.
But he does have family who does work for our district.
Yeah, his daughter, yes.
Yes, correct.
Yes. And also,
All those married people out there.
it makes me happy, but
They tried to get
my
mine
spouses
for
will
years.
think.
I didn't know about that, right?
Yeah, and, oh goodness, that just put out my head. Yeah, I was thinking, I know you're gonna interview Cabinet and Kathy and even, what's her name, sitting over there, Carmen, who's getting old. On the list that you have here from Janny, I want to underscore Darren Jones, Ann Sinek,
Oh,
Dr. Jawar. Those are three people that
Beth and David Jerome for sure, yeah.
So these are 4 people, and of course, our PTA Council President, Georgina Bravo, and Ann Sinek is our incoming.
Yes, she's incoming.
So she's not just a parent, she will represent PTA Council.
But all PTA should be contacted for the president.
Yeah.
We invite the PTA as a group to
Yeah.
say
I
please
had-
come.
Emailed last night to you, I'm giving you these names, you don't have to invite each of them, that's why I want to give a little descriptor, but I thought that they were people that could contribute important information. Claire Caballero, she is the Dean of Elementary Education for Cal State Fullerton. She works with us for grants, and she places student teachers. So she might be huge, and Karen,
Would you-
Say Claire's last name again.
Caballero. I think I sent her contact information to you last night.
Oh, okay.
Karen Green in technology. Catherine England, she represents the arts in Fullerton School District. She made the children, she put out the
The mural.
children's mural. Mimi Cruz is a conduit between us and Cal State Fullerton. She volunteers.
Say her name
as
again.
Mimi, and then KO, and then CRUZ. She does PR for our technology and arts foundations. Rajin Verdeen, he is the president of Fullerton College. He has 1 child still in our school district. Wayne Wadeen is a negotiating
I know Wayne
person,
very well.
Wayne, and he knows things about our district that our board doesn't know. And he's like an important person. And one group we haven't mentioned is our, our personnel commission. It's a 3-person personnel commission. And Clarence Hill has been on it 100 years, but what's the name of the lady?
Nancy Spencer.
Nancy Spencer's been on it 300 years. So they have
He's
history.
got great longevity.
Yes. And our newest member, Janet, is only on for 6 years, 5 years?
She's only been there for a few years.
Hardly considered full membership yet. They're
They're
lovely
ideal
people
to
who,
talk to.
again, know things that probably we don't have really good comprehension of. So, now you have my.
I'm gonna get you a name that, one of you may know his name, and I actually don't know his name, it just occurred to me. The president of Hope University,
Dr.
is,
Derry, John Derry?
I'm not gonna say that's not his name.
Yes, it
That is his name.
Yeah, it is.
Still.
Dr. John Derry, D-E-R-R-Y.
D-E-A-R-Y.
D-E-R-R-Y.
Just so you know why we're interested in Hope, you might say private institution, why, and religious. We have an AVID program at one of our junior highs, that any child who joins AVID at Nicholas Junior High and maintains a grade point average through high school,
And
Yes. And AVID, continues in AVID, gets free college for 4 years with Hope University. So that is a very important relationship with our school district. They provide space for district meetings for free at their institution, so we value our relationship with them.
Senator coaches, volunteer coaches.
And actually, what I meant to say, I stumbled into the president of Hope. I meant to say the president of Biola, and his last name is Corey,
Oh,
C-O-R, what?
yes,
Are
that's
we
right.
removing the president of?
No.
Hope really has a relationship.
Yeah, no, but this gentleman I just thought of, and I don't know him, but his daughter tutors my daughter, and he lives in Fullerton, and you know,
Dr. Derry.
I have to believe that,
it's up around
Give me
the.
his name again.
last name is Corey, if Hilda's got a new target here,
Dr. Derry.
C-O-R-E-Y. His daughter goes to Troy now, and he probably has a younger,
Does he have an email on
He's.
I don't have it, but I-
it? You'll send it to me.
is it Barry?
It's Dr. Berry, B-A-R-R-Y, Corey, C-O-R-E-Y.
C-O-R-E.
And you'll send me his email.
Yeah,
I'm on
his daughter was the girl Beechwood Student of the Year when Holden graduated.
When he was, yeah, 2 years ago, almost.
Yep.
Almost 2 years. Okay, you can see this group values our relationships. I could give you 100 more, but I think that you would
I
never.
think you value it more than I do. I had 5, I think.
Yeah.
Who knows a lot of people.
Yeah, the logistical consideration, the very best of all worlds is for the invitation to come from you.
Okay,
Certainly glad to call and say, on behalf of the board, we'd like to meet with you on such and such date. But if we could ask that a communication come, we'll find out the addresses and, you know, a little blurb about the process, and the Board of Trustees is very interested in your opinion regarding characteristics and qualities to come out. So with your permission, we would work with Carmen to get that out.
for sure.
And then anybody you want us to call, certainly easy to do, and to say, here's the date, want to make sure you get there, we'd be glad to do that.
I did remember that in the past, you put on our website that anybody who wishes to contact you could. And
Yes.
I would like you to arrange to do that again.
Absolutely.
Because that was important.
What do you guys think about the idea, and what do you folks think about doing what you're describing? But what about an actual ad hoc or advisory subcommittee? You know, that would do a first round of interviews or an additional round of interviews, or
And we
maybe.
lose the privacy of the
It's our job,
candidates.
it's our job.
But you lose it to begin with.
I
right?
agree that it's our job.
You lose
Yeah.
the privacy of the candidates and the whole issue.
Is that
It
a
changes
problem?
the pool of candidates, especially
Changes.
for sitting
They
supervisor.
want their
Confidentiality is
confidentiality.
very critical.
They want to know
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
I-
just
One
know people
one of
smarter
the
than
things,
I.
when we schedule a time here, we also, like you asked about the nighttime kind of things, or the open sort of form, that, anybody can come to those. And so people who can't come to something during the day, if they want, can come there.
Right.
And so we'll, we build around those kinds of structures so that it works for them as well. But with, with a couple of those in it.
And we'll advertise those right in the newspaper like we have in the past.
Yes,
Yeah, we put on your website, we put it,
Yes.
should be on your website as well, folks.
what the schedule is. But the invitation's coming from you to those groups, and the scheduling we do, we have sample schedules
Right.
of.
Can we do a connect ed so that all parents, or the phone
Once we have the dates
dates?
of those.
Yeah, We do
Yeah.
those.
And we'll do them and we do them bilingual, so depending on the site.
Okay.
So next, thank you very much for that, it was great, and we'll make sure that gets moving quickly, which moves to our next item, timeline. Kind of backwards math, we talked a little bit on the telephone about wanting to have someone on board with sufficient time to give notice to their other employer to be here July 1.
Well, when we spoke with Mitch,
Yes,
Mitch wanted them to come like June, sometime in June, so we'd have an overlap.
yes,
And in the past, we haven't had good communication between the outgoing superintendents and the incoming. Sometimes it's been the outgoing did not have an interest in meeting an incoming, and sometimes it was that the new person had no interest in dealing with the old person. But one way or the other, I think our board sees a value in the two of them communicating, and they can talk about us. They'll probably say,
who would like to do that?
I think that's an excellent idea.
And so
The
I-
challenge for June 30th, before June, is the timing is gonna be a little
Like
tight
June
for somebody able to leave their other job,
I understand,
so.
but maybe mid-June, when graduation is just completed, and they're not, they have less functionality at their old position.
And then when their school year ends.
Yeah, and we
Something like that.
still have a couple
Even a
weeks
couple of
with our
days here.
Although I wouldn't make it a position, I think it's a plus, but I wouldn't want to
Oh, not a
shrink
deal
our
breaker.
pool
Oh, it's not a deal breaker at all.
from it.
But I think the timeline that you're referring to is if we're gonna have someone ready by July 1, we need to be interviewing
Yeah.
candidates by May 15th. Not so much what they're going to be,
Right.
yeah.
Toward the end of May, that
Yeah.
time period.
Right,
so
that's when we-
Sometimes what happens too in that transition can be that Mitch, for example, could come back and spend some
In
days.
July.
And you could allocate some days for him to come and work with the new superintendent if they can't come till July 1.
Right,
So you can make it work either way.
right.
You know, and sometimes people get the job and they can't leave their old job till June 30th, but they can take some days and come. So
Right.
It works, it just depends on the candidate where they are.
Right, so.
That's the most typical, I think, that
Yeah.
they're still employed till June 30, but they take vacation days
Yes.
and come here.
And it depends, if they don't live in the area, it's gonna be harder to just have them be here, you know?
Yeah, a lot of here from
They-
So,
Minnesota,
We
My-
would
a
have
few
to make it
days.
work.
Yeah.
My question is, a few days we're talking about of overlap, not a week?
What have you seen? What have you seen with collaboration between outgoing and incoming supers? Probably very
Well,
little.
that's several days.
The most common is several days between the time they're selected and the time that they start,
Yeah.
because of their existing jobs typically.
Does somebody have a card table in the super's office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't need a lot of
No,
time.
no.
No,
They don't need 2 weeks.
yeah, just where the skeleton's buried.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
And a lot you can do by phone.
Watch out for this
And
guy.
a lot you can do by phone, a lot they do by phone, they just communicate. And again, I think Hilda's point was right, sometimes depending on how the current superintendent's going out, they may not want the communication, so it just sort of depends. But they work it out by phone and by, coming into the district and being introduced to the district, those kind of things. And whether it's vacation days or they make it work, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of time.
Sometimes they want to set the wrong tone and the other person's still here, you're under their shadow and everybody
Yes.
turns to them.
We can,
So the dates for the interviewing, so if we want July 1, you gotta start backing that up.
Right.
So if we get, in terms of, we know the groups, so if we communicate back to you about a couple of days to start the community input, to get that whole process going, we can get that. We don't necessarily have to decide today. We kind of do need to decide when the interview date is and
Yeah.
then look backwards at it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so,
Pretty critical.
right, absolutely.
And originally, your timeline, your deadline for applications was April 30th, the way Rich had originally presented
Right.
that. Because that leaves us kind of the time we're gonna need to get this advertised to start, that's good.
it gives you enough time.
Yeah, we have a month, can you do it in a month?
It's tight, but
That's a little time.
it's tight. It's
Is it
tight.
too tight?
It-
I don't want to look,
But I.
getting the right person trumps this time
But on the other hand, I don't want, because we're late, to allow so much time that Carmen would like to come to Fullerton, but she's nervous, and Fullerton doesn't interview till the very end of May, and she has other interviews in mid-May, and then she grabs a job and never even comes to our interview.
Yeah.
She
Oh,
probably
you could,
does.
She could do it.
And so, when you're doing this, it's sort of like, if they really want to come to us, maybe 4 weeks is enough,
If they're out there on the market looking.
if they're looking.
Yeah.
Well, they've already got their fingers
I
done.
know,
They
right.
One of the
start fun.
challenges is
Yeah.
probably that spring breaks for
Yeah.
people are coming at different times. And so you could have somebody who's on spring break for part of this and won't know. If you get it advertised for April 2nd, which is next Monday, and you can't.
Can't do it, it's gotta be 9 and 16. but-
April 9th and
So you
16th.
give them 2 weeks after that second posting, 2-3 weeks, then you're basically, let's say 2 weeks. Then you could interview somewhere around that last week of May, or worst case scenario, first week of June.
You know, this is an area that I absolutely would defer to you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, Hilda's kind of referring to the life cycle of when people apply, and I think those are, you guys know about this. You
Yeah.
tell us, please tell us exactly what you would recommend.
Yeah, I'm concerned that April 30th is tight to get, not just because and every district draws different people. You know, there are people who are going to apply, we're doing Lake Elsinore, I'm doing Lake Elsinore, and that's not going to draw the same kind of candidates you're going to draw. So
Yeah,
different
but
candidates.
we
are
did have
looking for
somebody
different-
drop out last time because they took a position somewhere else.
Sure, that'll happen, but I'm just concerned April 30th is
Okay,
tight
that's
to get really.
So what do you recommend?
We need to go 2 weeks beyond that? 1
No.
week?
I'd say another week,
1 week
like May
beyond that.
4th.
Okay, May 4th, that's good.
What is it?
April 30th is a Monday, so it's just a few days later, but it leaves you
Yeah.
basically a week.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's.
So when would you suggest we interview, considering that the end of the month has?
So we're
So
saying the
the
deadline for
job-
application.
well,
The job closes, excuse me,
May 7th.
yeah, May 7th,
May
I
7th.
suggest closes.
Is the Monday?
Yeah.
Is the weekend?
Gives a weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, if we have a week to prepare and finalize all of our background checking and references on candidates,
Okay.
then we come back to you that next week,
Week of the 5th, 14th, somewhere.
the week of the 14th. So if we just went by the weeks, if May 7th is closing, week of the 14th is a meeting with you to be arranged at your convenience. Then you can interview that next week, or 2 weeks later, which would be, would you suggest?
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day is the 28th, I know that.
So,
You could do the 29th or
last
30th.
29th or
Furlough
30th,
day.
I can't
31st?
do the 30th,
It's a-
I'm so, well, I guess,
Okay,
I'm,
or even,
Or the 31st.
yeah.
That gives.
That
you-
week.
Let me ask you
sometime
this,
that
would you prefer to interview on a Saturday because of work schedules?
Oh, that's.
Because it's a full day, it's a full day.
I can move my
she,
Friday.
Friday
I can-
she can do.
But I can move my Friday to another day. I've
As long
already-
as you know ahead of
Yeah,
time.
I've alerted them that,
I can do anything.
that's.
Okay.
What days are we talking about now?
June 1.
How about June 1st, it's a Friday?
As
June
the-
1.
So that would be our full day of interviewing?
That would be the interviewing, and you would have picked your finalists, your interviewees, the prior week.
The wine auction's the next day, but that's okay. I can't interview on the next day because
That, the first would be good, yeah.
we'll do it all on that day.
Rachel, we did.
Or we do it, one minute, can I, just let me go back to my calendar.
So,
Calendar, let's see,
this is
March.
June 1.
Okay.
But we also have a day where we are meeting, we're meeting other days
29.
as well, am I correct?
We have to meet with you sometime either the 21st, 22nd, 23rd to kind of bring the candidates to you and you select who you're
What
interviewing.
about the 29th?
We could meet, it's a district-wide furlough day, but we could meet.
I thought they need more time.
No, we will move off campus.
Right, once we
Well,
start
yeah.
doing that,
But Donna was there.
Donna
Donna
was
was there greeting the candidates
She-
because
just
we were
take it differently on.
we were in a closed room and the candidates were brought
Yeah.
They all came early and,
And Donna screamed
29th is
herself.
that,
I don't know.
we would need to then meet with you the Monday or Tuesday before to give the candidates that you want to interview on the 29th time to rearrange their lives. At least give them a week.
It sounds like the first is too tight, 29th is too tight. Is that,
I
Yeah.
think it is.
yeah,
This is
well,
my
let's not make
judgment.
it too tight.
I think you need to leave yourself a little
You
bit.
can't do
wiggle
this,
room on
you
this.
can't do the 9th, or the,
First,
June first?
Well, I can do the first, but you, I can do the first.
would you rather the 30th first?
Oh, the 31st would be awful.
The Thursday.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
one thing you might think about is May 31st and leave June 1st available in case you don't finish.
Okay.
Did we do that last time?
yeah, you had several days left.
Yeah.
It kind of, you wanted to vet, you know.
we're talking an 8 to 5 type
Yeah,
deal.
yeah,
Oh,
8
yeah.
to 5. So June 31,
May
31st.
May 31. There's no June 31.
Well, now there is.
I think we have the authority to
All
do
right, May 31, right?
Yeah, and June 1.
And June 1.
I thought that was a lot funnier than it apparently was.
So, do you have a preferred day to enter for the candidate review? That would be that week of 21, 22, 23?
Does that give you enough time?
Yes. We will have, remember, we're going to, after May 7th, we're going to have all these applicants, and we have time to
Okay, hold on, let me just
background
set this
review.
It gives them 3 weeks.
kind of conclude.
It gives us
conclude-
2 weeks, it gives us 2
2
weeks
weeks,
to
yeah.
do the background check,
So-
which is okay.
You're
Which is
talking
One week would be
about-
hard.
And make
You're talking
copies for
about
us.
the week
Yeah.
of May 21st.
Yeah.
21,
sometime that-
22, 23.
And we will have received the
That meeting is usually,
packets from them before then, right?
We have a board meeting on the 22nd.
That doesn't interfere with this. On the 23rd, we have Orange County School Board Association, 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning, their fiscal update. Down at the Orange County Department of Ed. Like we do,
We could probably live without that.
we can do it in the
Fiscal?
afternoon if you.
Oh, after.
It's a 4-hour
Oh, I
meeting.
think that's a
This is a 4-hour meeting.
I'd rather do it at the beginning of the week if possible.
The 21st?
Monday is good, if it's not.
What is this
It
meeting?
gives us plenty of
It'll
time.
give, will
This is
we
where
have received their packets beforehand or not?
Yeah.
Not usually.
Okay.
We usually bring them.
Bring them, okay.
It will be reading all the packets,
What we did last
discussing with
time.
I
everyone.
can remember when we read all of their resumes and their
We
packets.
did it.
We were in that
It will
room.
be hard for you to get, with only that period of time, to get all the material to you. at
Right.
any time. So we really would bring it on that day.
Okay.
Okay.
And so it typically takes, that's
Everybody
why it
had
typically takes
copies.
3 or 4 hours.
Everyone had a book.
And we bring you a notebook with candidates we recommend you interview based on the criteria and all those
And
things.
it's like 5 or
5, 6, whatever it might be. And then we also bring you all the applications so you
Right.
can review this. And we'll tell you why we're not recommending certain.
Right.
24th and 25th is better at the end of the week.
The
The
21st
21st is
Bev
better.
wants
We need the
21st.
21st because we need to give them a week's notice to
Oh,
come
okay, that's
interview.
fine. I don't care what day.
Is that a long meeting?
4
4
hours.
hours.
And
Yeah.
what time do we?
Sometimes
we
3.
want to do morning?
We should
I
start
like this
early.
morning thing.
Start early because we don't know how long it'll last.
I think we should meet in the mornings in general.
Far more awake.
Yeah.
So the 21st?
21?
If the
public would
come, we
Yeah, I know.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, 21st for the, that would be the
We do 9 or 10.
21st, 9?
9 o'clock,
10.
9 to 12?
I would say 9.
And this is May, sorry, I'm just running this.
May 21st.
May 21.
Is that closed?
It's closed.
That's
It's
closed.
closed.
Oh, that's closed,
The
okay.
interviews are closed, everything's
Yeah.
Gotcha.
closed.
Okay.
Once this is finished, it's closed.
Okay.
Then moving forward with that timeline, you would have time after choosing the finalist to visit, do the validation visit of that candidate.
After the first.
Yeah,
After
that
the
would
very
be-
first.
And that person would then have enough time, figure generally 2 to 3 weeks notice. Month is great, but 2 to 3 is what oftentimes you'd have somebody here, and then they could work out that overlap
Transition
time
time.
with Dr. Hovey.
So
I'm sorry, when would we be doing our,
After the
community visit?
Whatever, to be arranged, whenever the schedules would permit after you've selected your finalist.
Okay, I'm gonna throw in a wrench. If we can get that done before June 8th, do you think that's possible?
Yes.
You'd want to, I mean, because it's year-end school closings
And you want to move forward because remember, after that validation, you come back to a formal meeting, a public open session meeting to approve your new
Contract.
superintendent.
Which we have on June 26th.
On June 12th.
You might have to call a special
No,
board
June
meeting.
5th.
Yeah.
June 5th, yeah,
June
June
5th.
But by then you
We won't have a
another
candidate by
vacation.
June 5th, so we may have to call a special board meeting.
Special
I'm
meeting.
leaving town June 9th.
For how long?
A week.
Oh, look like-
And then quite often you do a little reception,
Yeah.
et cetera, for your, and let the community meet.
Send a picture of me.
Because it's going to be in the newspapers and people say, you know, it tends to eliminate a lot of the questions that will come up.
I don't think I went to the visit last time, so I think I was out of town, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be the whole
Yeah,
one,
I don't
sometimes
mind.
only
I
a
don't
couple
mind.
people go, it
Yeah.
just depends, yeah.
So to clarify, the site, the validation visit would probably be the week of June 4th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll pick a date and tell us.
Well, the
The
candidate.
candidate will pick that.
No, you and the candidate will
And
work
the
that out.
candidate will
Our
decide that.
candidate will decide.
And if it's not in the area, it's.
Oh, gosh.
Great, that's
Well, we
great
can
time.
make it in,
Good suggestions.
New York or?
Yeah, I can be there.
I'll go, it's an apples, I'll go.
But the only deck we don't have is the input.
Yeah, we need to establish that and,
No, that's awesome.
good, the community input dates.
With
We need
spring
to-
break coming up.
And we can,
When is
we
your
can,
spring break?
if you, with your permission,
The
we'll
second
work
week
with
in
Carmen
April, so
on
whatever
this.
dates.
April 9th.
What, to miss
I
any
think so.
days where people would
So
be
your spring
gone.
break the week of April 9th, so we can't do it the week of April 9th. So
Right.
that's gonna put a little bit of a tight thing on the position description. We may have to do the position description without a lot of that part of the input.
Yeah. We try and do what the picture referred to is that we try and make sure that we don't just go out and do a position description before we get some degree of community input, even though it's your description. But we may need to get it out a little bit earlier this time
Yeah.
and let people understand that this is, you know,
Subject
this is
to
what
change.
the trustees want.
Information as of today?
Yeah.
Yeah, to be,
Last time you did one of these, when did we do this, what part of the process?
that's the position description.
So, okay.
After the input, we put that together,
Okay.
and now we post it. Most people don't do a brochure anymore, but, you know,
'Cause it's all
they can just
online.
print it right out. It's a PDF.
And you put it on your website too. Okay, well, it's on ours, which is where candidates typically check, but it's also on yours.
Okay, so they're going to
So
your
around-
website to look at each district.
So
Yeah.
you're probably gonna do community input around what,
Yesterday and.
the 17th?
16, 17, somewhere in there.
Okay,
I'm-
16,
I'm
17.
the 18th, so
April.
I'm not at
April.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work those dates out with our calendars.
Yeah, we'll have to work that out with you guys about that, and where we'll be and all that.
You wouldn't
You don't
do
need us.
anything during spring break, because you would want to use the district? I mean, it just.
Oh, use the office buildings.
Yeah,
For
we
the
can-
community members who don't have students,
Students.
you
Yeah.
could easily.
Well, that's what,
Hope University.
And we could do something during the week of the 9th, if we do something like that.
I mean, it almost like frees the teachers, it's like, I know it's a,
Right.
They probably,
The people that don't have students in schools, you can.
But
get
it
we'll-
doesn't matter to them when spring break.
we could work with you guys on that.
yeah, and we're,
And we'll, you can identify children.
I mean, I hate to delay it just because it's spring break, if there's a place to
especially with
go.
community members, yeah,
Right,
they're not, oh.
Right, they don't know that it's spring break unless.
They're gonna say, this district is, why, no problem, there's no kids here, right?
Right.
No, not really.
So we can work
so-
with you guys and work our dates and get that scheduled.
Yeah, can, with your permission, we'll work with Carmen to set that up and then communicate back to you what that is.
You okay with that,
And-
Fran?
of course.
And then the last
Please
piece
in charge.
for this morning is do you want us to communicate through the board president? Back and
Yes.
forth with the email and through Carmen, so kind of that triangle, and then you would communicate that with the board,
Yes,
right? And obviously, all the, requisite Brown Act provisions apply, and all that, so that wouldn't be a challenge. But we'll make sure that you're informed from us as your contracted group.
Because you'll give us just updates each
Yes.
week or what have you, how far we've gotten.
Where we are.
Okay. You can do that. And that Mike will be the contact with it, that Mike will be doing.
With the written, Mike will do the written contact, and we'll be doing
Awesome,
it. And,
what a team.
yeah.
Okay?
let me see. Does anybody on this, of the four of us, have any questions regarding how we're doing it or what we're doing?
No, I actually hope we get a lot of, that we get to interview a lot of candidates. I would like to get lots, I don't know what's typical, but to me, more looks is better. And you look at a resume, it's very important to look at the resume, but you meet the person, it's a whole other world.
I think we interviewed 5 or 6, I think we set up for 5 or 6 in one.
One counts.
How many,
And we had about 25 applications, I think.
how many total applications do you estimate that you will receive, and how many, that you wouldn't just look at it and say, this isn't even gonna cut it? How many legitimate ones that are worth taking a hard look at by you?
We're getting 15 to 20 these days.
Total?
Total.
Total.
And then out of that, typically there are 10 viable,
Yeah.
right in there, sometimes fewer,
Yeah.
sometimes more, but, and then some real, the matches
The
come.
stars.
The stars are few, but.
Sure.
It's
So-
gotta be harder to get people to move in today's economy
That's the
because
biggest challenge.
where we used to say California's so expensive to move to, Orange County's expensive. Now people have to look at where they're living if they're not in our Orange County area and say, I'm upside down in my house, there's no
Can't
buyers for my neighborhood, can my wife or husband get a job?
Yeah.
Your pool is gonna be limited by people that financially see this as a plus for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the housing issue is a challenge, not just that what they can afford here, but whether they can get rid of where they
Right,
are.
That's what
And
they're
it's-
saying.
If
Yeah.
they don't live close.
Right, it's always been an issue to bring people into the
Sure.
area, and
Sure.
now it's even a bigger issue to get people to leave.
Where they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's that way with business.
But you're
and-
talking
We
Fullerton.
used to have those university houses. Remember the university had
At
the
the
university housing up by the Elks?
Yeah,
They were
that's-
charging.
Oh, okay.
That was because
That
they
didn't
were
fly.
in upset.
But you have to be able to sell your house, I mean, if you can't sell what you're in.
Carmen, Kathy, if you two have any questions, please contact everybody because they are your two go-to people.
Right.
Yes.
And we rely on them a lot, so
Great.
feel free. Mike, we have a lot of contact with them.
And we have an executive assistant that'll be working with us on the search, who will be in touch with them about all the logistics and posting agendas and all those kinds of things, and providing that support.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And,
Your passion and your interest.
Thank you.
It's fun, we have a good one.
You will have good people.
Yeah.
You
Well,
will.
we've got our cheerleaders, so.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
we rely on you. And this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Sorry it was late, but Taylor called.
Oh,